Hi, everybody.
Hi there.
So the term Life of Riley actually has a definition in the Oxford Dictionary, and it means a luxurious or carefree existence. Honey, do we have a carefree existence?
Are we living the life of Riley? Well, no, and we'll tell you why we think that. You know, if you get into this and you think it's all just going to be, well, anyway, just watch what's coming up and you'll understand. Life of Riley. No. Different.
Yes.
Enjoy.
See ya.
Hi, I'm Sandy.
And I'm Ed.
And this is General, our totally awesome water dog.
We used to live on the Outer Banks of North Carolina, but one day we found both of ourselves unemployed.
So we decided to take a chance. We sold everything, bought a trailer, and left to explore America. We're learning as we go along, but we still make mistakes.
But we get a lot of things right too. So come join us as we learn to RV full-time, explore America, and share in our exciting journey of discovery.
Our next adventure is just over the hills.
So we usually get up sometime between 7 and 8 o'clock. And the first thing that happens is General gets his breakfast. That's very important. And then Ed is going to take him for his morning walk so he can do his business.
Right.
And on his way out the door, he's going to start the generator. And that will be my cue that it's time to make the coffee.
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 Whenever the microwave comes on, it beeps. And then I can look up and see that the time is, 0, which means it has power. Ed's turned the generator on. So now it's time to make the coffee and the sweet tea, if I needed to, but I just did that yesterday and he's not out yet. So just coffee today. We have to get some of our tanks emptied. So it takes a little while to get all the parts together to do that. So our black tank needs to be emptied about every 4 to 5 days. Sometimes we can go longer. We have 2 gray tanks. So the one that runs the shower is usually good for about 4 days. And then there's one up here for the kitchen sink, and that goes a little bit longer. That only needs emptied about once a week. And we did that one yesterday. So today we have to do the black tank and the shower tank.
It's always a little bit of a thrill because this is a 36-gallon tank, which is good because it's a little bit bigger than the tanks we're going to empty, but the connection is slightly higher than the exit. So this is my system, such as it is. You just have to figure things out. Fire in the hole. Going in. Walk it on in. Come and check that out, huh? And get it a little clean. So, now it's sort of washed out with some shower water, which is a lot better than the water that was there before. Works like a charm. And we can take our stroller and stroll right down to the poopy part.
Keep in mind this tank weighs about 300 pounds now. So the dump station's just a little ways down the road, about 2/10 of a mile. Sometimes there's a line here and we would have to wait, but there isn't right at the moment. And we can kind of see it from the trailer, so we know when there's a line and when there isn't. So there's 2 dump stations here, and they're both being used, so we just have to wait a minute. So now we are at the dump station, and we have to empty the tank into the hole. Yes, the rock on the hose is a necessary part because it jumps sometimes. So after we have black water in here, Ed generally runs some rinse water into the tank and shakes it up a little bit.
Hook the, there's no peg on the end of this hose. There's no way to hook it to the little stem thing that we rinse the tank out otherwise. Put the lid back on. This is my recipe. Now you slosh it back and forth a little bit.
Gotta get the last few gallons out of there. Gotta drop off some garbage. So now we have to empty the shower tank. So we go through that entire procedure a second time. Gotta put all the stuff away. And remember to lock the tank back up so nobody runs off with it. That stuff's all back in its spot. So now we move on to the next project, which is fetching fresh water. So we gotta get the hoses out for that. And off we go again.
Woohoo!
We're at the freshwater station. I always put the filter on first. Sometimes the city water has a lot of chlorine and stuff in it, so we want to make sure we get out as much of that as we can. It's a charcoal filter, that blue thing. And then we have special water hoses, drinking water hoses. We don't use garden hoses for this. And then he plugs it into the water tank in the back of the truck. And let her rip. So when we take the hose off, we have to be very careful to make sure the ends don't touch anything, or they would be contaminated and we would have to buy new hoses. So we're back at the trailer now, and we have to get the water pumped into the trailer. It's a little more complicated than the procedure that we just did, but Ed's got this rigged up pretty good. That green hose is attached to an outlet on the bottom of the tank, and there's a pump in between the green hose and the tank. You can't see that right now. And then this switch box runs that pump. He just has to plug it into the cigarette lighter in the back of the truck, and then
away we go.
And then the hose goes in the filler tube over there. Have to remember to put the green cap back on the green hose again to avoid contamination.
That's right.
And then we have to wind this water hose back up and fit it in this bucket, which is always a treat. Next, we have to see if our propane tanks are empty or nearing empty. So Ed has to take all this stuff apart and physically lift the tanks up to see how full they are.
This jumped off, so and that's our heat.
of the truck that belongs to me, and that runs the generator. So that one is kind of on the empty side, so we're going to take that into town and get it topped off.
So off we go.
So we're driving into town, and in this particular location, town is only about 3 miles away. We have been in campgrounds before where town has been 20 miles away, which is generally the case, 15 to 20 miles away. So not much of a trip in this location, which is pretty cool. So we just come to the propane filling station at the 76 gas station at the corner, and the really nice gentleman here fills up the tank for us. And then he writes out a slip of paper that says how much gas we got and how much we have to pay for it. And then we take that slip of paper into the store and pay for our gas. And it's generally less than $10 for one tank. While we're in town, we decided to go to the Roadrunner Market to get a few groceries. We just needed like bread and milk and stuff like that, our staples. Of course, our refrigerator and our pantry space are less than half the size of what they would be in a regular house, so we do have to go to the store to get stuff more often. And this is our fridge, and it probably doesn't look too awfully bad on the outside because it is actually fairly good size. But when you open it up, you realize that the shelves are only about a foot deep. So yeah, not a whole heck of a lot of room. So here's the freezer. Same thing up there. Not a lot of room. These are the little flap doors that go to our basement, and it's a pass-through basement, so there's a door on each side of the camper. And we have to make sure these stay locked because the locking mechanism pulls the door in tighter because our seals apparently are not enough to keep the water out when it rains, and it's supposed to rain today. So got all that locked up. It's doing a little bit of maintenance today. We had some of our LED bulbs burn out, so he is replacing those. It's always something.
It's always something, and you know, we bought these because, well, low voltage, but they're supposed to last forever. We're 7 months on the road, and we're almost in the dark. And at $6 a pop.
Our travel trailer and most travel trailers have this little control panel in them. And you've got switches there, obviously, to turn things on and make things work and stuff like that. But up at the top, these buttons here and these indicator lights. So from left to right, we've got the battery, the fresh water, the black tank, the gray tank number 1, which is the shower tank, and the gray tank number 2, which is the kitchen tank. And the battery right now always reads full, even when it's not. The freshwater tank always reads empty, even when we've just filled it up. The black tank always reads full, even after we've just emptied it. And the gray tanks kind of fluctuate a little bit in the middle, but never get full or empty. So obviously, these control panels are only as good as the sensors that run to them. So after a while, you know, we've been on the road for 7 months now, and you just kind of get a feel for everything and how long your water's going to last, how long it takes to fill up your tanks and stuff like that. But you always need a plan B. And here's an example. We ran out of water, started to run out of water when I was doing dishes a couple nights ago. And, you know, you can hear the water pump kind of struggling, and that clued us in that we probably only had 2 or 3 gallons left. So what we did was we filled up 1 gallon pitcher of water and put it in the bathroom to help us flush the toilets. And then we filled up our water pitcher, which is over here. We have a Brita water pitcher for our drinking water.
And that was our plan B. So we had all the water that we needed. I finished doing the dishes as best as I could with what water was left. And we were fine until the next morning when Ed could go get water again. At this particular location, they have the water shut off, the water station shut off between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. for water recovery. We don't really know what that means, but something strange in the desert. But we were fine. No worries. Whenever we're going to take showers or do the dishes or something, we have to make sure that we turn the water heater on and let it run for about 20 minutes or so before we get in there. Of course, we have an electric element for our water heater, and we have an LP gas function for our water heater. So depending on whether we're plugged in or not, depends on which switch we use. And showering in and of itself is a little bit of a challenge sometimes. Our shower is a 29-inch square. And the door that opens is right on the corner. So we even lose a little bit of that square where the door is. So it's very tiny. And another thing to consider is that we only have a 6-gallon water heater. Have you ever tried to take a shower with a 6-gallon water heater? So we had to get a special shower head. And as you can see, this has a button right there. So when you push that button, it shuts the water off, except that it drizzles a little bit, and it's supposed to do that, but it's very helpful to, keep your hands wet and everything as you're going along. So that's how we deal with only having 6 gallons of hot water. We have to turn the water off when we're not using it to actually, rinse ourselves off and everything. So kind of a challenge, but we got used to it real fast and don't find it to be a problem. And one of the other crazy things in here is our bed. Now, our bed is pretty normal. It's a standard queen size mattress, but we cannot walk around the sides of it. General stairs are over here. And this is just barely enough room for Ed to squeeze past over here. And you can walk around up to that point. But it makes it very difficult to make the bed in the morning. So we actually have to get on top of the bed and pull the sheets up a little at a time and keep crawling towards the pillows until we get the sheets and the blankets back up where they're supposed to be. So another little challenge, but not a big deal. And these are General's mats here on the bed because he likes to lay back here during the day, and it keeps our stuff nice and clean.
But we just fire this puppy up. Battery on, fire in the hole.
And we do this every night. The time varies. It kind of depends on how much more charge we need on the battery. Sometimes it's 4 or 5 hours. Tonight it's only going to be 2 hours because it's 8 o'clock now and quiet time is at 10. So we have to turn it off at 10. So whenever the generator is running, we also have to make sure that all of our rechargeable stuff is plugged in. So our computers are always plugged into the outlet, so they will charge up when the power comes on. And then we have our portable battery, our large portable battery, down here underneath the table. But that charges up too when everything's plugged in. So then the thing that we really have to pay attention to is our little chargeable batteries, which here's one of them, and there's another one, and then our phones. So we have to make sure our 2 little batteries are plugged in and our phones are both plugged in, so everything can recharge while the generator's running.
Well, how'd you like that?
Probably not what you were expecting at all.
Certainly not what we were expecting, but we didn't know what to expect anyway, so it is what it is. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. If you do, please consider checking out the other videos we've made and our travel videos too. And please subscribe if you haven't already. If you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear them. Both good and bad. I mean, we know we're just people and probably need a lot of improvement. Anyway, take care. Bye.
Bye.